Hello, everyone. So, I only learned that Virginia Roberts Giuffre is said to have unalived herself on Friday, April 25th. She was found, according to the reports, in her, in that farm where she was staying at after her estrangement and possibly divorce from her husband, Robert. And that she was found to be, unresponsive. Not a lot of information has come out, but they did say that she was found, and they believe that it was self-inflicted. Please tell me if you can hear me, because I'm a little discombobulated this morning. Can you hear me in the chat? Just say yes if you can hear me in the chat. I'm going to be asking you here. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to assume. Okay, thank you. You can hear me. So, I have been clearly, and forgive me if I cry. I'm going to try not to cry. Um, Let me present some of the information to you as I have tried to find it today. And I will take questions and stay with you for as long as you need me so that we can get through this together. Um, so her family issued a statement, and they described her as a fierce warrior in the fight against SA and S transportation. And they expressed their sorrow, saying that she lost her life to self-unalivement after being a lifelong victim of SA and transportation. Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against S abuse, and they went on to say that she was the light that lifted so many survivors. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. So I am here, and I am. Can you please, Neil, tell Sean that as soon as I am done with my live, I can talk to him. I am here, and yes, just let him know I'm available to talk to him. But I want to first finish doing this and share information. But please, Neil, can you do that for me? Thank you. Guys, I'm sorry that I'm a little discombobulated here. So here's the thing. If you guys remember when she uploaded this photograph, she clearly had a lot of bruising and everything, and that was the last photograph that she uploaded to her Instagram. Now, the other thing that she did, that she only just did, now this is a copy of the page of her new Instagram account, which she titled Virginia Roberts Rising 11. And she changed her little profile photo into just a black sort of just a black, no image. And then if you look underneath, you can see that she put a little heart underneath, right? So Virginia did that. Unless she had given somebody else access to her Instagram, Virginia made that change. The other thing I want to share with you is I looked at her Instagram and some of the comments that were coming in. And, this one person put it very succinctly. All you people on here that bullied her 3 weeks ago after she lost custody of her children and got into a crash, you must all be so proud of yourselves. She's gone now. I hope you're all happy. And that is, look, I'm going to say that I believe that the bullying that happened to her after this photograph was very hard for her to take. She was already going through a difficult period because apparently she had lost the ability to live with her children. She was, in fact, legally barred to see her children. Her children were her life. I don't see the mainstream media who are reporting the fact that Virginia, who has been our beacon of light for everyone, they're not mentioning that she was in an abusive marital relationship, that her so-called Prince Charming, and I'm not talking about Andrew, I'm talking about Robert Giuffre, that he would beat her up, and that a lot of the bruising that we have seen on her Instagram, that she was in an abusive relationship. Now, I have tried to explain to people that this happens, that when you are a victim of abuse, it just somehow begets more abuse, and she was very silent about this. I made it clear that the news media was aware that she was a victim of spousal abuse, let's call it, in 2019, but they did not discuss that at the time. And for the sake of the information that she was bringing to light and the fact that she was literally the person that was put first by her attorneys, she became, therefore, the most outspoken victim. Based on her position, I know that she was advised to remain on the down low about the abuse and just put forward a positive image of herself as a happily married woman. She was not a happily married woman. She was putting on a brave face. Now, a lot of people are focusing on one of her. So I took a couple of. So she wrote this after the article came out. When she had the accident, I was able to fight back against Ghislaine Maxwell and J.E., who abused and transportationed me, but I was unable to escape the domestic V in my marriage until recently. After my husband's latest physical assault, I can no longer stay silent. She had also written, and I'm going to try to read this to you. In 2019, and I think this is why a lot of people are confused as to what's happened with her. So, she had written that she was not suicidal, right? And I'm going to try to find that. But she wrote this, you've got to remember, she wrote this back in 2019. So on December 10th, 2019, she wrote on her X account, I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and general practitioner. If something happens to me, for the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. But this was on December the 10th, 2019. So that's a long time ago. Something that she wrote in her post that I believe we all saw. Let's see if I have a photo of this to share with you. Okay. So this is the post that she wrote when everybody started to gang up on her. Actually, that's not it, and I apologize for this. I wonder if I have it here. You know what? I may not have it here, but I'm going to read it to you. One of the things that she said when she talked about the accident was that she wrote, I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. So that when she thought she was in her last days because of this accident that she had, and she was in the hospital, and one doctor out of the many doctors that saw her when she was in the hospital said to her, if you do not take care of this issue, meaning something with her kidneys, you only have 4 days to live. That is where that came from. It did not come from her imagination. And so, being afraid that that was true, she wrote this. But she did say that she was ready to go. And then we saw Victoria Harvey descend upon her Instagram like the vulture that she is on behalf of Prince Andrew, wishing her dead. And we saw other women and some YouTube channels describing her death. They did not believe that she was even alive. And there was just a lot of bullying. And there was a lot of bullying. And at some point, even as strong as Virginia is and was and will always remain, because she'll live on in our hearts forever, there's only so much any one person can withstand. I do not believe that people are saying all kinds of weird things, and I think that's just to muddy the waters. And so, I have heard things like she is in victim, like some kind of witness protection program. No. If you believe that this administration or any administration wanted to, quote, expose the truth, no, they are the very people who are part of this world that Virginia helped to expose on a public level. So I want to read what she wrote to from her Instagram, what she wrote to Tara Palmieri, and she tagged Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Pam Bondi, J.D. Vance. She wrote, Tara, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for your courageous words regarding the release of Phase 1 of the Epstein files. Your commitment to shining a light on these issues is not vital for me, Virginia Roberts. Even this tweet, I want you to notice that she mentioned herself. She refers to herself as Virginia Roberts. She's no longer referring to herself at the time of these documents that are supposed to have been dropped, but she's referring to herself as Virginia Roberts. So she's definitely no longer married, okay? But for every victim of human trafficking who has been silenced far too long, the disappointment we feel as victims is profound. In what is supposed to be a democratic society where our rights to freedom of information in MAGA. Oh, no, let me just repeat that. Because this is important. She writes, this is in her in what is supposed to be a democratic society, where are our rights to freedom of information in MAGA America? She is saying this directly to Donald Trump. She worked for Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, where she was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. She goes on in this very long tweet. It's disheartening to witness what feels like a dog and pony show turned political stunt. True democracy should embody freedom. Yet we continue to find ourselves trapped in a system that overlooks our struggles until it's convenient for those in power. As tax-paying citizens, we have earned the right to trust our elected representatives. It raises uncomfortable questions. Does justice only apply when it suits certain agendas? I sincerely hope that Phase 2 of the Epstein files will not follow the same path as its predecessor, but instead provide transparency and honesty about the evidence that has caused so much suffering. Having witnessed the trauma inflicted upon the girl I once was, I truly believed that leaders like Trump and Musk aimed to, quote, drain the swamp, unquote. However, my faith is waning. I hope they prove me wrong, and that justice will finally be served for the hundreds of victims, including myself, who continue to suffer from the PTSD inflicted by those we are told to trust. Thank you for being a truth seeker and for your unwavering fight for justice. Together, may we strive for a government that truly serves the people and upholds the principle of freedom for all. God bless you, Tara, and God bless America. Warm regards, Virginia Roberts. So that is Virginia's actual, almost final commentary to the Donald Trump administration. These are her last words to the Donald Trump administration for having dropped bogus documents and for telling the world when he took office, Donald Trump said he would be dropping information, all these people dropping information. I told you then that I didn't believe it. It did not happen. Virginia spoke back and said, hey, that was bogus. You're not keeping your word. These were Virginia's last words to the government before this horrific thing. Now, I believe look, a lot of people are clearly saying that Virginia unalived by somebody else, right? That this was something that was done to her. I can understand that. I understand that mindset because for years, I mean, we've had 5 other women who stepped forward who were also victims, survivors, who are no longer with us, but the media does not cover this. I have explained to you that Juliet Rose Bryant is afraid for her life. But in my opinion, I think that Virginia's heart was too heavy. She had lost custody of her children. And I think one can only take so much. So let me just scatter. Hi, Kirby. Sean has emailed you the link for his live show right now. I think you deserve that large audience. The topic deserves you. Guys, I'm a little bit stuck here. What do I do? Do I come back and do another live on this and just go, you guys meet me at Sean's show? That is a much larger audience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go join Sean Atwood now. I think I agree with Scatter, NSPE. Thank you for letting me know. I will do that. Okay, let's go over to Sean's. I'm going to finish this with you guys later today. And so I'm going to, okay, guys, I'll meet you over at Sean's. I'm ending the stream now. Hi. Hi. I'm a wreck, but I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I've got a lot of notes. I was just doing my own live, and somebody told me that you sent me a link, and my audience agreed that I should be here with you, and so I told them to all follow me here. I have a lot of notes because there's a lot of, as you know, And Beverly, thank you. People are saying, hi, Beverly. People are saying all kinds of things, such as she's in witness protection. No, that is not the case. Ryan Dawson, because he and I have known each other since almost, since I started in July. He and I are friends. He knows, and he has said it, and I saw his comment, and he feels that she had had enough. That there's only so much that any human person can take, and I agree with Ryan. In fact, I was reading some of Virginia's commentary to the Donald Trump administration, which I would like to read to you as soon as we pull ourselves together. Virginia did change her Instagram account. She added a black, sort of like where somebody's emoji goes for their thing on their Instagram. And by the way, she had changed her Instagram from Virginia Giuffre to Virginia Roberts Rising, as we all know, because she had divorced her husband, who was very abusive. None of the mainstream media have reported on the fact that she was in an abusive relationship. I mean, that photo that we saw of Virginia that people mocked. I mean, the mock and the ridicule and the Victoria Harvey trolling and wishing her dead. I think that was the final straw. Um, there's only so much any human person can withstand. But in that comment that the world heard when Virginia, and by the way, the 4 days that she wrote on her Insta, people do not realize, and they speak about it as if it was something that she made up in her mind. I will tell everyone here, hopefully, that this will quell the rumors that when Virginia was in the hospital, as we have all been in the hospital at one point or another, that she was visited. The different doctors make the rounds. And one of those doctors, and probably she didn't even know his name, said to her, if you do not take care of this issue, meaning something that was in fact a condition in her liver, I believe, you will die in 4 days. Now, that's where she got that, and that spooked her to the point where she wrote that. However, in that post, she did write, and you may have probably read it, but she did write that I am ready. Until, but what she wanted, she said, I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. These are her words. So she was ready to go. She had made peace with herself. She was ready to go. She was told by one doctor that if you do not take care of this issue, you will die. And she posted this and she wrote, I'm ready to go. She had done her job here on earth, but she wanted to see her children. In December of 2019, she did write something that is making people believe that she was unalived by external forces. Now, one can be unalived by external forces in the manner that we have seen play out in Virginia's case, meaning the trolling, the hateful comments, the interference in one's life, having to stay in an abusive relationship because you do not know how to leave. So emotionally, even though your body is going, emotionally, you revert and you shut down. And that was Virginia's first unalivement. Okay, she's lost her children. She's due in court on the 10th of next month, I believe. That's when she was due in court. No, 10th of June, due in court. That's the first unalivement. And then to see the mainstream media turn on her the way they did, all of them across, there was no mainstream media outlet who stood up for Virginia in her moment of need, because she has been there for all of us in our moments of need as the person who opened the floodgates into this world that most people did not see until they saw it through Virginia's eyes. Nobody was there. The mainstream was not there. Even people who had been supportive of her were doubtful. They were like, oh, she's a liar. That was the tipping point from where I sit to make Virginia perhaps say, you know what? I'm tired. I'm out of here. What, is that how you feel, Sean? I'd like to add something here, if I may, to put the Victoria Harvey in our rear view mirror, because that's where she deserves to be. That photograph that she disputed so ferociously is a real photograph. I posted, and I'm going to make it available to everyone for free on my Instagram. I posted the full front photo, uncropped by the FBI, and the rear of it, which has a timestamp. That photo was proven to be legitimate by the FBI. Jeffrey Epstein was, I'm sorry, I mentioned J.E.'s name, was deposed several times. I will post that as well. During that deposition, he was asked specifically about the photograph. And the question by the attorney who was there deposing him was, do you recognize this picture? Epstein took the fifth. The second question was, did you take the photograph? And in fact, there is a blurry thing, and Virginia, in her deposition, referred to that as Jeffrey's hands or fingers. I do not recall which of the two, but I will be posting that free. It's on my Substack. In addition to the fact that it was brought up in regard to a legal matter by attorneys in a deposition where Epstein took the fifth. So to put it in the rearview mirror, because I personally will never even utter Victoria Harvey's name again. The photograph is real. I want Virginia to know, because she can hear us. She's always going to be in our hearts. She paved the way for everyone, because whether you have been an SA survivor or we have all survived and overcome something. She showed bravery at the time that it was most required, and even in her last moments when she was estranged from her family. She was physically, people, it wasn't just that she was emotionally beaten down, but physically she was in pain. I think we need to, with our hearts and our love, raise her to the place where she belongs. Because this world was cruel to her. This world, in my opinion, did not deserve her. She had a very tough life from the time that she was very young. It never let up for her, but she showed strength when it was needed. She exposed Prince Andrew and many other people who we should continue to talk about and expose. We should not give them silence. I have the last comment that she wrote to Donald Trump. Would you like me to read her last comment to Donald Trump? Okay, so her last on X, she wrote to real Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Pam Bondi, and J.D. Vance. And this was in response to a tweet by Tara Palmieri regarding the Epstein document drop, if everyone remembers that. So Virginia wrote, Tara, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for your courageous words regarding the release of Phase 1 of the Epstein files. Your commitment to shining a light on these issues is not just vital for me, Virginia Roberts, and as you can see, she's referring to herself as Roberts, no longer Giuffre, because she's divorced, but for every victim of human trafficking who has been silenced for too long. The disappointment we feel as victims is profound. In what is supposed to be a democratic society, where are our rights to freedom of information in MAGA America? It's disheartening to witness what feels like a dog and pony show turned political stunt. True democracy should embody freedom, yet we continue to find ourselves trapped in a system that overlooks our struggles until it's convenient for those in power. As tax-paying citizens, we have earned the right to trust our elected representatives. It raises uncomfortable questions. Does justice only apply when it suits certain agendas? I certainly hope that phase two of the Epstein files will not follow the same path as its predecessor, but instead provide transparency and honesty about the evidence that caused so much suffering. Having witnessed the trauma inflicted upon the girl I once was, I truly believed that leaders like Trump and Musk aimed to, quote, drain the swamp, end quote. However, my faith is waning. I hope they prove me wrong and that justice will finally be served for the hundreds of victims, including myself, who continue to suffer from the PTSD inflicted by those we are told to trust. Thank you for being a truth seeker and for your unwavering fight for justice. Together, may we strive for a government that truly serves the people and upholds the principles of freedom for all. God bless you, Tara, and God bless America. Warm regards, Virginia Roberts. Yeah, but I do not feel we're going to see a phase two. I believe we were led down a primrose path. In fact, before every election, every presidential candidate, every political candidate does make false promises. We have all been witness to that. And sadly, Virginia's fight, I'm glad that she stood up to them, and there is a statement. It's on her X. Everyone can find it. She's disappointed with this administration. She did start working for Donald Trump. She knows him. That is where she was procured by Ghislaine Maxwell. And fourth, trust Trump, not trust Trump. Trump becomes president. In the end, she saw his true colors. Yes. So I've read about 12 newspaper articles, and other than saying that they found her, in and then to say that there was, quote, no suspicion, but no further comments of where she was found. Was it in the bedroom? Was it in the living room? Was it in the kitchen? Was it in the bathroom? The manner of unalivement has not been exposed, not by her family. I expect that within the next day or so, because of her prominence in the biggest story of our collective lifetimes. I believe more information will come out. Um, I think we deserve it to know what happened to Virginia. I think this is very different from the Gene Hackman situation. The Gene Hackman situation, I believe, will always remain somewhat mysterious. Although there's enough to, I think, say, okay, certain things seem okay. In Virginia's case, it's a little bit more clear cut. We saw the trajectory in real time when she was in the accident and all the backlash. We saw that in real time. We knew that she was going through emotional, like the emotional roller coaster that she had to be feeling on a day-to-day basis. And then the paparazzi basically taking a photograph of her. And Virginia, we saw that photograph. She stuck out her middle finger. It's like, enough. I would have done the same thing, frankly. There's, when you are trying to recover, both mentally and physical, and even a hospital stay that didn't have the kind of bruising that we saw uh, of her, and we only saw her face. God knows the bruising in her entire body that would have been visible, right? Because I'm sure she had bruising in the rest of her body that we did not see. But for the paparazzi only then to hound her after they attempted, I think a strong attempt was made to discredit her during that period where she most needed everyone's support. And mainstream media is as much responsible for the demise, finally, of this most amazing creature as, let's say, somebody like Victoria Harvey, who she can backpedal all she wants. She is equally responsible, and the trolls out there. I hope they understand that bullying can lead someone to do something that they would never ordinarily do. And that finally it was the bullying at a time that she was at her weakest emotionally that brings us here today to this tragic and horrific end. The manner of death, I believe, will be shared with the public because there will be an autopsy. It will be released to the public because for the media, these are clicks for them. So they will cover that for sure. We'll know in a few days what's going to happen. Well, she did have a caretaker in the house, that 71-year-old woman who was driving the car. I don't have her name at my fingertips, but that woman lived on the property, and that's where Virginia was living. Frankly, she didn't own that second property. She rented that second property, and she rented that to go when she and Robbie broke up. But that woman would have been the person who found her. Yeah, by the 71-year-old woman who was driving the car and who the bus driver just had a conversation with after the accident. It's funny because I'm more I'm more, talking more with someone else, with Rose Juliet Bryant, who is also terrified that she is going to be unalived. And I think I mentioned this the last time you and I spoke about Virginia. Uh, in Juliet Bryant's case, she's had people insert themselves into her life, beat her up, and she has had mysterious and unusual happenings. She has seen unusual trucks parked in front of her home. She is afraid to leave her house. She has an 8-year-old, you know. So I know that she told me that all the girls went silent on her, meaning Maria was no longer responding to her, emails or trying to communicate for a while. Virginia had also stopped communicating for a while. She was, she and I, we were talking like we're talking now. We got it because she lives in another country, and she told me all these girls, we were so close. We were supposed to be like sisters, and no one's talking to me. I don't know if but I think that's what happens when people are healing. You retreat, and even Virginia said it in one of her Instagram posts. You retreat because that's your place of solace. So I think after being public for so long, and there is so much happening, and there was a lot of backlash too, I think everyone tried to just go their separate ways, because even when you speak to quote, a sister survivor, you are re-traumatized because you cannot help but to, right. So I think that that's what Juliet perhaps didn't understand, why maybe Virginia was not responsive, why Maria was not responsive. But I think we will be hearing from the women who did step forward alongside Virginia. They will, I'm sure that they will not be silent in this moment when we're all standing forward to pay tribute to this wonderful woman. Yeah, and everyone needs, it is the biggest sort of case of our lifetime. Add to it the fact that, J.E. and Ghislaine were spies. Add to it that it was a government sanctioned operation. Add this to the fact that it was, uh, human transportation and all kinds of other things that we do not know. There are many layers to this. It wasn't just the superficial layer that the media focused on, which was the most spectacular, meaning the SA stuff and the transportation, but there were other layers that the public is not savvy to. But we know that this was an espionage operation, and with that, there's a lot extra stuff. And I think people, the women who stepped forward, needed time to heal after being outed to the public in the way they were, when, let's say, operatives of the state, quite frankly, as David Boies and J. Stanley Pottinger proved themselves to finally be operatives of the state who stepped in for a controlled opposition and only went after Prince Andrew. Now, I have my own suspicions as to why that happened, and I have been writing an article about that. That will be delayed because of this shock I'm going to need to absorb, which has happened with Virginia. But I believe there are other forces at play here. Um, I don't think we've seen the end of this story. I do not feel that Donald Trump is going to issue any statement about Virginia. Remember when he was asked about Gillen, his words were, "I wish her well." However, do you think that he's going to say anything about Virginia? I doubt it. Sean, do you think Donald Trump? Yeah. Yes, it's they're not going to come. It's a state-sponsored operation. He is the president of the United States. He was Jeffrey's best friend for 15 years. People seem to gloss over that and forget this. She was procured on his property. He is not going to say anything. Those documents, we already had those documents. There was nothing new under the sun. They were giving to these documents. A group of people went to Washington. It was mommy bloggers, people of no significance, no real media, mommy bloggers, people who had already done hit pieces on Virginia. The whole thing was a sham, meant to the people who are, let's say, live in a society that is unaware. The people who do read mainstream, oh, they believed something did happen. Those of us who know better realize that it was smoke and mirrors. And Virginia called him out. Nothing will happen. However, it's up to us, Matthew, Sean, Beverly. It's up to us to keep this alive. This is not forget that the most powerful men in the world were aware of who Epstein was. Let's not fool ourselves. People are aware. They knew these women, and there were some boys who are now men who have never been mentioned, that these were trapped persons and trapped into this situation. It's a government sponsored. It was sponsored by the United States government in collaboration with the United Kingdom, in collaboration with the State of Israel. These are the three countries that knew about this operation. Every government has an operation of this type. Matthew, I think that I remember when you were so, you came out and you made that great discovery that Ghislaine was running a PROSTI blah 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 ring from the house, and you just made the discovery. Yeah, it was great. Well, I will tell you why, Matthew. We all know about Jimmy Savile, who was only labeled a PDF file after his I'm going to just say unalivement of natural causes, because it was, it was normal. He lived a very long life, and during the course of his life, people did try to step forward to no avail. And we can then look at the JE situation when he was forcibly unalived. So I think that what happens is, because, again, so Savile, I believe, worked for the crown. I think we have enough evidence to say that he worked for the crown. He was certainly protected by the crown. We can see that Epstein was just, as per Alexander Acosta's words, I was told to back off, that he belonged to intelligence. And so we are given these figures. Savile after he has expired, JE after he too has expired, and we are giving these persons to vent our anger at. We do not place our anger where it belongs, with our leaders who conduct these operations and use people like Virginia and the others, and let people like Ghislaine, who they knew had an operation going on in her home, just like Savile, just like, what happened at the properties, different properties that JE owned, let's say in the private island, the Manhattan townhouse, the house in Florida. Everyone knew the place in Santa Fe. He even had a place in Colorado, and things were going on there. His apartment in Paris. People knew everywhere. This was silenced by what Alexander said. I was told to back off. And then we, the public, are given these people who go through a revolving door, because this is still happening, except it's no longer Savile running it, it's no longer JE running it, it's no longer Ghislaine running it, or even Jean-Luc, who's also expired. Other people have taken their place. This is a part of our reality. We know it now, thanks in large part to Virginia, Roberts Giuffre, Maria Farmer, and everyone else who stepped forward. We know this now. However, we cannot say, oh, why have not the police? We now know why the police do not do anything. We now know why mainstream media, which is an arm, the police are an arm of the intelligence apparatus. In fact, they are taught by each country's intelligence apparatus on how to behave and what to do. We can no longer blame necessarily mainstream media, because they too are an arm of the intelligence apparatus. That is, we've gotten nothing but propaganda until we started having our own channels on YouTube, with Sean having one of the longest standing channels talking truth to power. It's up to us, Matthew, Beverly, and Sean, to keep telling the world the truth, because we cannot expect the truth to come from elsewhere. We cannot just focus on Savile or Epstein or Maxwell or this person, and or we have to know where the power comes from. I personally believe that all politicians should be required, sort of like the way that we have, everyone has to do, you have to appear in court to be sort of like, I forget what it's called, on a every 4 year basis, you're like a jury selection. I think the way, if we're going to have real government, we should do it by the people. We should all be required to serve every 2 years and then keep going. And there should be no, additional, there should be no real politicians. Let's just put it that way. There's just too much corruption. Well, well, Matthew, that proves my point. Every time, every Exactly. I agree. I think Robin Williams was 100% right. Every time, if you look at Trump's administration, the one in 2016 and the one now Howard Lutnick is his, I think, what is he, the Commerce Secretary or something like that. Howard Lutnick was given his townhouse by Leslie Wexner. He was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. Howard Lutnick, who was the head of Cantor Fitzgerald, somehow, and who had his offices at the World Trade Center. And who else did he give space to? Sarah Ferguson, who was also in New York during that horrible day in September on the 11th day. Oh, she too was doing an interview with, I think it was Channel 4 in New York City, but she was staying next door to J.E. at Howard's house that was bought by Wexner, given to J.E., transferred to Howard Lutnick, who is now in Donald Trump's administration. Lutnick did not make it to his office that day. He was late because he took his little boy to school. However, the night before, he was out till very late. He went to the Michael Jackson concert in Madison Square Garden. He took his brother, who lost his life the following day, to an expensive dinner. I, I, I think we all know now what happened on that day. But these people, anyone who was in Donald Trump's administration, and by the way, no one seems to know that Howard Lutnick co-created with Elon Musk Doge. When people talk about Doge, they make it seem like, oh, this is all of Elon Musk's idea. No, Howard Lutnick was the brainchild. You could just put it into any search bar, put in Howard Lutnick, Lutnik, Doge, and you will see how that came to be. He is not a good guy, but that is why these men become our political leaders. Donald Trump, in both administrations, hired or tapped on the shoulder or ascended bad people, just like Peter Mandelson in the UK. Bad people That is what's required. In fact, with J. Edgar Hoover, the reason that he ascended into becoming the FBI director for the duration of his life was because he had no moral compass. That is who, and we know he was like Andrew, like Mandelson, like almost any politician we can, deeply compromised. That is who ascends to power. We have to just recognize this for what this is. I think Ryan is right. I think he's 100% right. I think in fact, it was J.E. who uh, put her on some substance situations. Um, She began at that time to use substance. I believe that she had stopped, but she had to have been taking some kind of pain medication for the kind of ongoing abuse that she was experiencing. I mean, if her kidneys were basically, ha- I mean, that's where the substance attacks, right? It attacks your kidneys. So, I mean, she was suffering from many things. I mean, she was suffering internally, she was suffering externally. I think Ryan is right. I think that she just had enough. It was too much for this. She's only one woman. We're all just normal human beings. We can only absorb so much. I can understand the public and their skepticism of, she said she was not going to ever do this, and yet she did. But she said that in 2019, and a lot of things happened since then, and it's a gradual beating down on someone's psyche. I do not believe that it was caused, let's say somebody broke into her home and did her in the way I believe happened to JE. I believe that was an external force. In Virginia's case, sadly, I think she'd had enough. I really do. She was at her lowest point. The loss of her children was, I believe, more devastating to her than any physical abuse her husband inflicted on her, than anything that she, I mean, you have your children and you lose them. Apparently, Robbie, she put up this brave front saying he was her savior. Well, clearly we see that he was her undoing, right? The beginning of her undoing. He got her away from one bad situation only to put her in another bad situation. I don't call that very brave of him to have done. And people are also focusing on, oh, well, Virginia made all this money. Now Robbie's going to get it. I think that we have to stop looking beyond the money, and look at Virginia as a human being, and look at her children as humans, and stop focusing on money. Why there's this unusual obsession about how much she got from Andrew, or how much she got from Ghislaine, or how much she got from Epstein. She deserved every penny and more. It destroyed her life. She has no more life at the age of 41. 41 is just the beginning of middle age. The beginning of middle age. She had another 41 years to go, if not more. I mean, we've all lost an important voice. But really, again, I feel this world did not deserve her. She was too good for this world. I think that woman has no soul. She's a vapid human being, like her father, who was a thief. So I don't think that someone like her let's there are just some people who are born with dark souls, and will never be able to see or understand what Beverly so rightfully pointed out. I think that we will see some more hate against Virginia, some more trolling, which is really a sad state on humanity. However, we will see less of it. We won't see as much as what happened after the bus and car encounter 3 weeks ago. There'll be less of it, but it will continue. It'll continue if somebody steps forward tomorrow and we are exposed to yet another large-scale operation. We will see a repeat. This is the first time in history, with Virginia at the head, that we were allowed, as the general public and those of us who were victims as well as survivors, to see something play out in the mainstream, which gave us a sense of hope. It gave us all a sense of hope. But what Beverly said is spot on. We live with this every single day. We live with the trauma. We do have PTSD. There is not a day in my life that goes by that I do not feel it all day long. And it takes a tremendous amount of energy, and Beverly, you would know about this, to push beyond these feelings of despair that wash over us in unexpected moments throughout the course of our daily lives, and to keep going in a way that raises us. We are never really raised to the level where we would have been had this not happened to us, because we're always trying to balance our emotions, trying to, put up a good front for the world. We're fine. We're okay. We're not okay. We are okay to the best of our individual abilities. And that is why I feel that, yeah, she's going to still get some trolling, but she has taught the world what bravery looks like, what overcoming looks like. What I hope she also brings to the forefront is, do not tolerate an abusive partner, whether you are a man or a female. If your partner is abusive, leave. Leaving is when, as we can see with Virginia, is when you are at most danger, either from the person who has abused you physically for a number of years or even whatever length of time. That is when you are at the most danger. You could be unalived by that person, or you can be harassed by that person like he was doing to her by taking her to court and not allowing her to see her children, driving her to do something like this. So I hope this sheds light on, do not allow yourself to be in a situation where you are going to be somebody's abuse bucket, where you are going to be kicked around, because no matter how much sense or counseling that person receives, they're not going to stop seeing you as somebody they can push around. Just leave. Yes, you may suffer the consequence of not having enough money, but eventually you will be on your feet. It's funny, one woman sent me a really wonderful message. She said, and I don't know how I did this or why, but I've gotten messages like this for the last couple of years. She said to me, Kirby, I was in an abusive marriage. You gave me the strength to leave. Because of your strength, I left. I had no money. Sometimes the most I can do is take a shower, and that is my accomplishment for the day. But I thank you because I can wake up and even in this cramped small room, which is all I can afford, I am free. And really, that's how I felt. When I left my abusive situation, I had $100 to my name. I had nothing else. Literally nothing else. Nothing. All my earthly possessions had been destroyed. I had nothing. I had no clothing. I had nothing. I had $100 to my name. But that instilled in me, as I hope it will instill in everyone who has watched this, the urge to survive. It kicked something in. It kicked it in. And I was adamant that nothing was going to destroy me. And I continued and I rebuilt my life from scratch without family assistance, without friends, because my friends had been removed from my life intentionally. I suppose not only did they try to unalive me 3 different times by having me kidnapped and held hostage, and like I escaped. Literally, I just escaped. But it gave me the will and the determination, which is why I work every day. I do what I do. I pull together the strings of this case because I think they have clues into our world in general. And I just think that she should be a beacon for anyone, male or female. Again, do not, you are worth more. Do not put up with abuse from anyone, whether it's a toxic friendship, a toxic people will come into your life, and we feel it, right, Beverly? If a toxic person comes around, our gut goes crazy. It says, "Oh, our energy is drained." Walk away from these people. You do not need these people in your life. Walk away. Surround yourself. Eventually, good people will come around. We are here today. I feel the good energy from the three of you. And let her be the shed light now on that as well. That's just as important as what she shed on around the world. She was the beacon of light for SA and transportation. She should be a beacon of light for walking away from a bad situation. You guys agree, right? Yeah, I've missed you. We'll do something soon, okay? Because I have missed you. Beverly, you first. That's a good point, Beverly. I don't think most people are aware that Virginia had to do an appearance in 2019 on ABC in New York City, who was at the time they were from my vantage point, they were using her and they were doing a podcast and they were running around. So she was supposed to show up. She had an appointment to show up at an ABC studio, which is in my neighborhood. And she had just gotten beat up by her significant other, and she had facial bruising. And they had to postpone the interview so everyone knew until her bruising disappeared because they did not want to show her. They made a mistake, right? Because they should have put her on. David Boies made a mistake, right? Her attorneys made a mistake. They knew this was happening. I I'm going to say this here. I believe her attorneys are co-conspirators in what happened today because they knew she was in an abusive relationship. ABC knew she was in an abusive relationship. I mean, for them to have to reschedule her show until her facial bruising disappeared from her beating? Come on. Co-conspirators, right? I don't think I don't think if when you are in an abusive situation, some people are also saying, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, that he was inserted into her life. I want to make sure that everybody hears the following. Virginia went to a club when she was in Australia, she was sent to by JE and Maxwell to get her degree in massage therapy before she was supposed to go back and be impregnated to have their child. And she went to a club and if you read her memoir, which is available online, which she wrote many, many years ago, she spotted him and she made the initial contact, which is if somebody is inserted into your life, as we saw with, let's say, Rose McGowan, as I myself have experienced, these people make the first move. She made the first move on Robbie. She just happened to pick the wrong man, but that was the only guy that was available, I suppose. And so I do not believe he was, quote, inserted into her life. I just wanted to put that to bed. She picked him. That's great. I'm glad that you did that. I'd like to add one more thing. For women such as ourselves who have been victims of SA by elite predators, and it doesn't even have to be elite predators, but once we have been in that situation and we begin a new relationship, hoping that, because we're still young at that point, we're still very much have hopes for our future when we break away or begin a new relationship. We tend to tell this new man in our life, who we feel has become our best friend, everything we've been through. What I discovered as I went through a couple of marriages, a couple of relationships, is that whenever there was a fight, an argument, which all couples are bound to have, what was thrown back in my face is, oh, you are a WHORE. That word was used against me in all of the, and I'm sure that's how it started with Virginia and Robbie, which is why I'm discussing this. So we've shared our deepest, darkest, most intimate secret and shame, because it's shame, with this person that now we are beginning a life with. And then when we have a disagreement, we are met with this scathing word. Even if we're not beaten up physically, we are beaten up emotionally, psychologically with this word that has scarred us and will scar us forever. And we are no longer, it breaks down even that relationship. So that when that word was used against me, as the trolls do online, or they say, oh, you were his mistress, you were not his S slave. No, I was his S slave. You cannot, there is a difference, people. You know, if I was somebody's mistress, it would be, I would know it. I would have gotten into that. Yeah. But so that abuse can be, I think this is my point, it can be verbal as well. So for all of us who are survivors of this type of abuse, because we are talking about Virginia, who is a beacon of light for all of us, even that, if somebody has to resort to calling you a horrible name, he's not worth it. Consider that a red flag. You do not need to be emotionally destroyed continuously or looked at as someone who is beneath someone else. We are not beneath anyone. We in fact are much stronger than the person who has to resort to name calling, because that's an abusive thing. And if that's all they have to hit us with, really, that means we must not be doing anything wrong. They must be in the wrong, frankly, to have to resort to such a ridiculous form of retaliation verbally. So let's use this as a learning tool. Let us not take abuse, because I'm sure it began with Virginia and Robbie verbally, and from there it escalated. Let's just say no, whether you are a man or a female, you are worth more. If, in the end, you may choose to just live alone or be alone or just have friends that you trust. You're worth more than having to put up with even verbal abuse. This is a very sad day. I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to process this. I think I'm in a state of shock. It'll take some time for this to settle in. It's really weird because I couldn't sleep yesterday. I had a strange, and it's, again, it's, what's weird is I've always had a premonition about April 25th. Since I was a little girl, every year on April the 25th, I would say, now what is it that's supposed to be happening on April 25th? And I never understood what my lifelong thing about the date April 25th. What does that mean? So for some reason, I had forgotten it was April 25th because my days bleed into each other. I couldn't sleep last night. I got up, I went to bed, I got up, I went to bed a couple of times. So finally, and usually I go to bed very early because I'm on UK time for the most part. And I was just off. I went to bed very late. I got up maybe, I don't remember, but when I got up and I saw the news, I'm like, oh my God. But I had not registered until I guess now that it happened on April 25th. This is what happened, Virginia. And that's what April 25th, I guess, all these years has meant. The world uh, is different without her light, because she'd had a light even after everything had quieted down. I hope that her light shines forever. And again, I just have to say that everyone should check yourself when you are on social media. Be kind with your words. Please refrain from victim bashing. Otherwise, you are not worth being on social media. Remove yourself if you feel the need to bash someone who has been through a horrific experience and who's brave enough to stand up and speak for to help humanity, which is what she did. Go for a walk or just log off social media and say nothing. I mean, I don't know what else to say because I think that was a nail in her coffin. Yeah, sure. I believe Virginia finally left. And then she was going to, it's my understanding that Virginia was going to file some sort of restraining order. She had been beaten up physically enough to the point where she finally got her courage up to leave, which she did. And she planned to put a restraining order against Robbie. This is my understanding. Robbie beat her to the court and put a restraining order against her. And we know that during the time that she was in the public eye for a number of years, because it started in 2019, but she started working with these attorneys from 2015, because that's when the Maxwell defamation case was. So, and really, she stepped forward to the FBI from 2010. So we only saw her publicly fighting from 2019, but her fight began in 2010 when she began working with the authorities and began giving depositions and began her lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, which ultimately ended in Ghislaine settling on the courthouse steps on the day that that case was going to be heard by a jury. It was settled. That prompted Ghislaine to have to sell her townhouse, acquired by the Rothschild family. There's a lot that's going to be said in coming days. And yeah, I think that started soon after her marriage, to be frank, because an abuser doesn't start 10 years into the marriage, right? She had a child almost immediately. So she has first child. So right there is your lock. You're not going to leave. You have this baby. She had no money. When she stepped forward in 2010, she and her husband, they were barely scraping. They were, she, we know that she didn't graduate high school. She didn't have a way to earn. So she had, her first money came with the settlement uh, of Ghislaine, the defamation case. And J.E. told Ghislaine, he said, "You're stupid for having done what you did. Why did you go up against Virginia?" He said this to her. And she was stupid, but Virginia has been fighting since 2010. 2015, that's settled. And then 2019, J.E. is arrested. And then we had the thing with the case against Prince Andrew. And again, I believe that was intentional. I am working on an article showing what's happening behind the scenes with the royal family and why Prince Andrew is the only person who was held to account, publicly shamed. I will be sharing that because it ties in a lot of questions that people have not been asking and they should be asking. But she's been fighting for a long time. So she has been fighting for 15 years, this legal situation. We know that she and others stepped forward for what was believed to be a case by the government against J.E. in 2019, in July, but then he was unalived in August, so they didn't have the chance to fight him in that on that federal level, right? That was removed, leaving the only other option, these civil lawsuits, out of which she had already won against Ghislaine, and then with the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund, which is also very sketchy because that was drafted by David Boies, and one of those conditions was in order to accept this money from and this is applied to the 300 approximately victims who stepped forward, you must not sue your abuser. So all of them were encouraged to take the money, which was in the large, let's say the larger than normal, was a bribe. Drop your lawsuit, take the money, and shut up. However, through Virginia, we did hear a lot of names. Those are the names that have been exposed. So, but then with the Prince Andrew situation, people blame her for, quote, taking the money. Well, a civil lawsuit, that is the only thing that is available. And when Lionel is on the show talking about this, he will explain again to the people as an attorney that in a civil lawsuit, the only way to resolve that is financially. It doesn't have the teeth necessary to put somebody behind bars. That's all that was left for all of the victims, frankly. I just want Virginia to know that she was loved by everyone and that she will live on in our hearts. That's my final thought. Thank you, Sean. Talk soon. Oh, likewise, Beverly. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay, guys. Bye bye.